All right, meow meow, kitty cats. Um, I I guess I just had so much fun yesterday. I want to do it again. Who said that? That's like who told me this? Someone said that God being childlike, and that God is it's kind of like with the sunrise and the sunset, that God is the type of person who's just like again, which is kind of funny. I have a niece who is very cute, as little toddler nieces tend to be, and and I can be a bit of a goofball, a goofy goofster, a gooftastic. Meow 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 meow. And and I love kids, which is something my son got from me. Oh, actually, all my kids are pretty kid crazy. They like little kids, which is fun because I love little kids. And what up, all you people? Brett and Seeking Genuine. I feel like I know your name from somewhere. Did you email me? I think I know, but I can't remember it. Anyhow, hello. And but I always like to connect to little kids, particularly when I'm back with my in-laws, because I don't always I'm sometimes I have a hard time connecting with people, probably because I'm a flippin' weirdo. And my daughter was just telling me that this morning because she came down on her way to school, and she said she was just saying no. She was just saying no to me, and I was like, "Meow, meow." And then I started being playful with her and messing around with her, and then we got into this like wrestle tickle war about who's the weirdest, which of us is weirder. And she's like, "You're weirder." I'm like, "Okay, flipping weirdo." And she is kind of a little weirdo. But what just happened? Did I just spray coffee in my eye out of my cup? How did that happen? This can't be raining. It's inside. Um, that was not welcome. But she'll like creep around the house. She loves to sneak around and then surprise you. And if you like didn't know she was there, or like sneak downstairs or peer around a corner, or like sneak at your feet, and then she just thinks it's funny. Little freak. Um, but my niece, so I like to connect with her because I feel like before this is probably what it is. Let me say it in complicated, weird language to clarify. Um, before people have kind of gone in their before they have somewhat of an individuated sense of self, it's like when a little kid or an animal even looks in a mirror and they have no, like, they don't know what it is. Like an animal want to fight. They see their reflection in the mirror and they want to fight it. Like they don't recognize themselves in the mirror. Um, when little kids are like that, before they have a sense of self, like think you could think of it in a lot of ways. I, thou, um, before you have like that sense of I, and you see yourself in the mirror and you see the reflection where there's a bit of, I see Ian's here. It could be potentially like narcissism. Narcissists seeing your reflection in the pool. It's how Amish people won't even have mirrors in their houses because of the sense of narcissism of gazing at yourself. But little kids don't really have that. They don't have a sense of self, and in a way, they're free, right? They're free from that. Oop, we already got one of the words in the title, the mosaic, freedom. Um, happy Friday to all if you are in the US. Do I have watchers from other parts of the world where it's not Friday right now? I don't think so. Um, and so that kind of freedom, or I was thinking of Sherry used to talk a lot about in the corner. It was being talked about for a while. Douglas Harding, is that his name? Yeah, philosopher and writer. Let's look. Let's pull him up. Old Dougie. Isn't the Dougie a dance? What kind of Dougie can we do? Douglas Harding. Look at that. You. Sherry was always playing clips about him. He was an English philosopher, writer, mystic, and spiritual teacher. Douglas Harding, C.S. Lewis connection. Because C.S. Lewis on Douglas Harding's The Hierarchy of Heaven and Earth. Because this is a book that we were talking. Oh, shut up, Facebook. You're so terrible. Here we go. C.S. Lewis's introduction to Douglas Harding. How? It's just got to be this first part, right? Yeah. So the process whereby man has come to know the universe is from one point of view extremely complicated. Are we saying this? Yeah. And from another, it is alarmingly simple. Okay, pause. I'm going to read this. We're going to get back to me connecting with my niece and what I do. But this is what we do. We go out to big ideas and we circle out to something that seems unconnected, and then we come back in victory. Back. Okay, here we go. We can observe a single one-way progression. Okay, I'm starting over. The process whereby man has come to know the universe is from one point of view extremely complicated. From another, it is alarmingly simple. Weird how that works. The Tao. Very complicated, very simple. The subtle and the simple. Good Rob Bell episode podcast. We can observe a single one-way progression. At the outset, the universe appears packed with will, intelligence, life, and positive qualities. Every tree is a nymph and every planet a god. Man himself is akin to the gods. The advance of knowledge gradually empties this rich and genial universe. First of its gods. This is what I'm talking about. This is the loss, the ego, the loss, right? The advance of knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, love edifies. We're gonna talk about these things. I was just reading Galatians 4 and 5. The advance of knowledge gradually empties the rich and genial universe that's full of gods and nymphs, right? The mystical, magical world. Magic. We might talk about weird studies too. First of its gods, then of its colors, smells, sounds, and tastes, all the way to nihilism, right? Where things are tasteless, depression, nihilism. Food has lost its taste. We don't want to. The world has lost its vibrancy. And finally, of solidity itself, as solidity was originally imagined. As these items are taken from the world, they are transferred to the subjective side of the account. Whatever, I don't like subjective, but we get it. Classified as our sensations, thoughts, images, or emotions. The subject becomes gorged, inflated at the expense of the object. But the matter does not rest there. The same method which has emptied the world now proceeds to empty ourselves. The masters of the method soon announced that we were just as mistaken, and mistaken in much the same way when we attributed souls or selves or minds to human organisms, as when we attributed dryads to the trees. Animism apparently begins at home. We who have personified all other things turn out to be ourselves mere personifications. Oh, an abstraction, right? Man is indeed akin to the gods. That is, he is no less phantasmal than they. Just as the dryad is a ghost, an abbreviated symbol for all the facts we know about the tree, foolishly mistaken for a mysterious entity over and above the facts. So man's mind or consciousness is an abbreviated symbol for certain verifiable facts about his behavior. A symbol mistaken for a thing. And just as we have been broken of our bad habit of personifying trees, so we must now be broken of our bad habit of personifying men. A reform already effected in the political field. Praise the Lord. There never was a subjective account into which we could transfer the items which the object had lost. There is no consciousness to contain. As images or private experiences, all the lost gods, colors, and concepts. Consciousness is not a sort of noun that can be used that way. I'm not sure. I mean, that was cool. I think so. Anyhow, that is C.S. Lewis's. C.S. Lewis wrote the introduction for Douglas Harding's book called What I just had it. What was it? The hierarchy of heaven and earth. But he talks about 4 stages of development. We're getting back to the niece. He says there's the Sherry, if you're here, never, dog. Always tanks. Only tanks. That's my eventual OnlyFans account where I show people my chest lettuce, as Sam Tiedemann loves to call it. Or who originally said that? I don't know. Someone said it. Maybe it was Andrew with the bangs. I don't even know what it means. It's like it's lost its context. It's just TLC deep lore now. And for my old V-neck cuts back in COVID in the Discord chat rooms. But I'm going to donate all my money to McMo's Ko-Fi. Where is it? Don't I have a... I had a banner. Where's banner? Here we go. There it is. Donate to McMo's Ko-Fi. That's what I'm going to use my OnlyFans money for. Douglas Harding's 4 stages of development, then to niece. This is why I can't ever get to opening it up to having people come on, which is what I want to get to. But I got thoughts. Infant. I think it was infant, toddler, adult, sage, or something like that. Whatever. Look it up if you want to know exactly what it is. Details don't matter. Go vacuum the driveway. You get my meaning. Don't focus on my words. Don't focus on the definitions. Understand the meaning. Because we're going to get there. Because I made some new branding. So anyhow, but the headlessness, what Douglas Wilson is talking about, like with headlessness, and this reminds me of Raj, Sacramento Raj, who PBK knows, who's Sikhi. But headlessness is a huge part of their whole story and mythology, because in order to be initiated in Sikhi, apparently, like that's the first guy, sage, guru, or whatever the guy's name is. I'm not, I mean, this isn't my religion. So, but he was in a tent, and what you had to do to be initiated is you would go into the tent and he would cut off your head. But it's tied to Douglas Harding's headlessness, because I think of it as a loss of ego. So like you start out as an infant with a mirror, you don't recognize yourself. You don't have egoic knowing. You don't have the knowledge that puffs up. But then through your development and through your voluntary acceptance of suffering and self-giving of kenotic love and agape that you learn through marriage and parenting are like some of the primary ways, but you learn anytime you love someone and you give of yourself, become a living sacrifice, you're learning headlessness. You're learning to give of that ego that is about self-protection, self-focus, it's not, and I would argue that's what a human being is most fully and fundamentally and clearly seen, which is rooted in Jesus Christ, behold the human being, the completed human being. Like in a sense, right now in Chronos, I am not a human being. I'm not there yet. I have not become perfected. A human being is the perfected human being, which is Christ in me, the white stone name. So that was a big aside. But I like little kids because they don't have that ego yet, which I think you can get back to in the sage phase of the Douglas Harding, the guru phase. When you've given up of your ego, then you become a true human being. But little kids are like that. And so like I'll get down on the floor and I'll crawl around with my niece. Did it take me 10 minutes to get back to my niece? And I'm really silly with her. Like all the kinds of, when people say like dance, like no one's looking, all that kind of stuff. That's the idea. Like you you would be free if you don't have a sense of ego where you're so concerned with what other people think and seeking other people's approval. Then you can become free and you could dance and you can have fun. And I try to do this with my niece. Or what was I doing? Oh, there's a, can I show you this? This is going to be stupid. I'll show you though. Can I do this? There's like a, there's this YouTube channel that I've discovered. This is a new view where he does kettlebell stuff, but he also does a lot of like basic mobility stuff. And he has this move. I can't remember what he calls them, but because apparently your lymphatic system, it doesn't circulate like your air system or your respiratory system or your blood system. And so you have to move it around yourself. So he does all this like shaking stuff. And he has this move where he goes, he twists and he does his arms back and forth. This is probably going to get branded or something. And he'll like go like this, just really quick. And it's just like a warm up. It's a, because it gets your lymphatic system moving. And I had just seen him do that somewhere. This is losing me viewers. They're just dropping like flies. Clip it. But he has all these different moves with like arms and movement stuff where you, your back hurts doing that because you don't do that much. Or there are mobility people who talk about like fixing your lower back aches or shoulder aches or whatever. And part of it is, again, this is all connected. This is the physical side of it. We're supposed to be on the ground, even doing like deep squats. I didn't used to be able to do this either. Can we see? I probably won't be able to because I'm not warmed up in the morning. But like, you can't even see because I'm deep. I'm deep. Oh, look. But if you get real low, you got to be able to like move around. It's good for your hips. But part of the reason people are sore and hurt all the time is we're not on the ground. We don't move around. You know, like when you go to Asian cultures and they can just do that deep squat and sit there comfortably. Get on the ground, do bear crawls, do crab walks, roll. Keeps your joints healthy. Anyhow, I was doing that fast thing with my niece and she loved it. Now we're coming back around. We're getting there. And I did that to her because everybody else is just sitting there like, you know, polite, responsible adults. And they're just sitting there being, I don't know, lame, boring adults. And I do that to her, which my in-laws, like, they were like, whatever, Luke's being crazy. Luke is an entertaining weirdo. So, and then my niece just goes, more. And so that's like become an inside joke in our family where if I do that or when we get around my niece, we'll just be like, more. And part of that is because I don't know who you are, Whispering Whippoorwill, but Richard Simmons. Very Richard Simmons. Super gay. But high energy. But that's the more. So God is like that. This is the whole point with the sunrise and the sunset. He doesn't get bored with it. He doesn't get bored with simple things. It's just the sun comes up and goes down, and next day he says more. You know? What up, Jason? All right. So that was all about more. It was a little bit about freedom. It was about ego. We need to get to some call and response and some Malcolm Guite quoting George MacDonald on the imagination essay, because part of what is in my description as Ethan Kahi has been going, he's been doing a dive into imagination, which I love because I think imagination is behind a lot of the things we're talking about. Imagination is perhaps the thing behind the thing behind the thing. It's the Master Eckhart, perhaps. The eye with which you see God is the eye with which God sees you. You know? There, it's maybe just like one reality. Oh, I'm gonna have to edit that. So I'm gonna play this now. We're gonna get there, but I just played so another two things. So Weird Studies. Oh, Rigel is gonna stream today. Okay, good. PVK he just dropped another Peugeot clip. So I want to share this first because I'm going to try to find the spot and I'm probably going to get an ad, which is sad. But here's Rigel. Here's PVK's new drop. Here's to get the goodest summer on Airbnb. That's not a word. So this Chad sent this to me, and also Nathan Phil.
To find.
Shut up with your ad. Especially a political ad. You knowest me not, you haters. Okay, I wanna play. How many ads do we have, people? Muslin blankets? Okay, here we go. No, here. This is what we want. Okay, we're gonna try it. This work?
Sound was not a thing. That of something fundamental about how I see the meaning of my changed something within me. Something fundamental about how I see the meaning.
Okay, what he's talking about. So this is a great movie. So he's gonna read a quote from Cormac McCarthy's The Crossing, which Chad has been obsessed with. Chad and Kalia are my two friends in the corner who are Cormac fans. Mitch, I know you like stories like old. And so Chad has been listening to a lot of Cormac, and there's a scene, and it's Chad's favorite scene. He was wondering if I got there. Apparently in his audiobook, it's like 45 minutes. And I have been slowly reading. I love Cormac. I've been slowly reading The Crossing, but I only read it. I don't read that much, and I only read it when I'm not doing book club books, so I don't read that much. But there's this scene with the priest, which this guy will read, which Chad also loves. And then I think he goes on to connect that with the movie Train Dreams, which is a lovely movie. A lot of people in the corner have told me that they like it. I watched it and loved it. I think it's very Terrence Malick-y, which I love and wonder it. But let's play this part, and here we go.
Meaning of my existence and that of humanity in general. What was here to be found was not a thing, the priest also emphasized. Things separate from their stories have no meaning. They are only shapes of a certain size and color, a certain weight. When their meaning has become lost to us, they no longer have even a name.
Come on. This is Cormac, okay? When their meaning has become lost to us, they no longer even have a name. One of the things I'm obsessed with in my channel and in general is names and naming and what's in a name. So meaning and name is connected, and Whitestone name is personal. We'll keep going.
The story, on the other hand, can never be lost from its place in the world, for it is that place. And that is what was to be found here. The corrido, the tale. And like all corridos, it ultimately told one story only, for there is only one to tell. To which the boy naturally responded, "What is the story?"
All right, that's all I'm going to play from that. It's flipping phenomenal. There's only one story to tell. I've been thinking this recently. Oh, God. And it's a difficult thing to talk about. Poetry knows this naturally, natively, I suppose. But I think we can get there with poetic diction, with propositions, when you know them properly and iconically. And a lot of what I'm doing in my channel is I'm talking a lot about ideas and propositions, but I'm doing it in a weird, poetic, circumambulating, strange notes from a tilt-a-whirl way where I'll circle big and then I circle small and I give personal examples and I tell silly stories, but I'm relating it all to myself, and it is kind of theatrical and a show because and fun and playful because that's how I am. But like it's and it seems there's a way it can seem it's the levity and the gravity thing. It can seem serious and playful. It's both of those because I am trying to practically live and embody, and it's not even put on. Christ the eternal Tao, Christ in me, the human being mixing those two elements, heaven and earth, perhaps, at the same time. And I think you can talk about this stuff propositionally in a way that doesn't collapse it, or at least I think that's the future. I think that's the vanguard of potential intellectual discourse and the spiral opening revivification of academia and intellectual discourse is to be able to talk about these things in a way that doesn't trap them and limit them to propositional tyranny. But I think it's often confusing for people because people are like, you're saying two things, or you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth, or you yourself in speaking against ideology or being ideological. And I actually don't think it's true. But at the same time, within reason itself, there's no way that I can rationally explain it to you and for you to see it. You just have to, I guess, somewhat, again, to yesterday's episode on Pistis, trust. And also, like, somewhat, I see myself live streaming, talking about ideas, but almost in a Terrence Malick kind of a way. I'm not, if you take any of the things that I'm saying in and of themselves, you'll miss their context and you'll misunderstand the bigger picture, which is what Mosaic Vision is all about. And so even like, I was saying this, to Chad on the phone yesterday, because he called me while I was watering my yard. And Chad calls me, like, I'm bad about calling people, but when people call me, I like it if I can take the phone call. And Chad is good just about calling me. Chad calls me way more than I call him, and sometimes I feel bad about it, but then I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. And I was saying there's a couple, I was trying to illustrate with, like, even, I don't know if I was comparing it with Cormac. Are you here, Chad? I haven't looked at comments in a while. No. But like, one of the books my book club read was Absalom. It's a Faulkner book. It's the only Faulkner book I've ever read. And it was difficult for us. Someone was talking about that recently in here with literature. I don't know. Skank's probably not. Skank, our literature man. I'm sure Skank's read some Faulkner, but Faulkner is one of those authors for contemporary readers, even people that are literate and read books, is somewhat difficult to read. And that was true for my book club, which is a bunch of illiterate people, more so than me, the vast majority of them. And probably all of them, really. I'm not that literate. And but Faulkner is one of those people. I was trying to compare it to Chad, and I related it to, like, Clockwork Orange. When I read Clockwork Orange, it was that way because Clockwork Orange is written in a really weird. The way that they speak in Clockwork Orange is strange, and I think that was like a real dialect in Britain in, like, the early 1900s. But it has a lot of its own vocabulary and stuff. And so, like, if you get really caught up in the detail of trying to figure out what these people are speaking and saying, you'll never read the book because it'll be way too slow. It's the same way you learn a language. You can't. It's immersion learning versus like straightforward linear mechanistic learning. This is actually related to the topic. When you learn a language, you just got to be immersed in it. And there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle of the mosaic that you won't understand. But you got to just let it wash over you. You got to just hear it. You got to be in it. You got to listen to it. You got to play. It's the same way a child learns a language. They things come together and all of a sudden it's just boom, it clicks and you know it. All of a sudden, like what was not familiar, it's revelation. It's veiling and unveiling. What before you didn't understand, what before you couldn't see, all of a sudden you see. Before you didn't taste, and all of a sudden you taste. That's how you learn a language. It's the same way with like books that are that way. And I learned when I was reading Clockwork Orange, you got to just let it go. You got to let it wash over you. Just read it. Even if a lot of it doesn't make sense and you can't make sense of the vocab. And all of a sudden, the same thing happened with Faulkner too, by the way. It's just like, because the way his mind works is very unique and it's hard to track. And you just got to read it. Let a lot of stuff go. If you're trying to connect all the dots all the time as you're reading it, you won't be able to. But at some point, it all falls together and you get it. And like it makes sense. That's the same way I was saying taste works the same way. I've explained that with like Lagavulin, my first Isla Scotch whiskey. When I was first drinking it, it didn't make sense to me. I didn't like it. But then like I drank it, I let it wash over me, wash over my tongue. And all of a sudden I was just like, boof, epiphany. I get it. It makes sense. I love it. Yeah. And what's crazy is like, you see, this is what my live streams are doing. And this is what I encourage people to do. Like, and it's kind of good for me. I've realized like I really, the thing that I'm trying to do, I can't explain to you. If I could explain to you, I would. You got to just let it wash over you and eventually it'll click and it'll make sense. That's my argument. And you can only receive that in faith. It's a call and response. This isn't a mechanistic power thing. We're going to get there with Ross Byrd and Ethan, because that's the whole idea. Cause and effect versus call and response. Ethan's last imagination thing, they brought this up and they discussed it a little with, I think, who all was there? Olson and someone else was there. But it's Ross Byrd. Maybe eventually I'll talk to Ross Byrd. Who knows? We'll see. So that's what's going on. Now I'm going to play here, and now I'm going to play some new branding, which is from this video, which is in a playlist that I made, which is public. You can go check it out, which is my Mount Rushmore of TLC videos, When a Heart is Really Alive, George MacDonald and the Prophetic Imagination. So it's Malcolm Guite talking about and reading excerpts from, I think it's from A Dish of Orts, but within that is George MacDonald's imagination essay. So I made this branding. We're going to play it. And then I'm maybe going to read some Ross Byrd or just talk about it and then open it up for people to come and play. To come and play with me. You want to play with me? Let's do it. Here we go. Here it comes.
A genuine work of art, this is key, must mean many things. The truer it is, its art, the more things it will mean. It is there not so much to convey a meaning as, wait for the big verb, not so much to convey a meaning as to wake a meaning.
I would say just go watch that lecture and just listen to it over and over and over until it makes sense. Things, yeah, sometimes it takes a while for things to resonate, you know. You have to have, should I read my one of my favorite quotes, and you know, sometimes people get annoyed. Matt C, my boy, if you're here, sometimes Matt C gets annoyed with me about yeah, I know. And that, you know, whatever. fucking either trust me or don't. Either think that's narcissistic or believe me. Your choice. Choose. Choose. Do you need savings throws from my mind control? Or am I trustworthy? You got to decide. Trust your conscience. Authority. Now we're getting there. Authority. So, also PBK, the reason is because I try to not be a hypocrite. If what I'm saying about personalism is true, and if I really believe it, then I need to act accordingly. And if I think the information economy is really largely about mind control and serving principalities rather than persons, which is part of what personalism is that I'm rooting my authority in people that I know to various degrees through different technologies and sometimes in real life. And if the TLC, a lot of it is about that, and that is kind of my project and thing in the TLC, then I'm going to pay attention to TLC more than I pay attention to other games and hierarchies that are rooted in the information economy and academia and institutions that I don't have faith in. I don't have faith in institutions where I can't discern the movement of the spirit. Because that's another thing. Like, this is going to get into authority and call and response, because the spirit moves where it will. You can see neither its coming nor goings, but you discern its fruits. I think of a lot of modern academic institutions or Christian YouTube and the YouTube algorithm and what's going to push you forward in the YouTube algorithm so that you get more views and clicks and likes, is a principality I have no interest in serving in a game I don't want to play. So I don't just say this shit with my mouth. I try to act that way. And so when I'm multitasking and running around during the day listening to stuff, I'm not listening to politics. I'm not paying attention to politics. People send me links about political stuff and stuff from X or whatever. I ignore it automatically because I don't care and because I'm principled. And I listen to Ethan, or I watch McMo's stream, or I listen to Ezra talk to a bunch of people about a dinner with Andre, or I take a call from Chad, so like that's the stuff I'm doing. I'm engaging with people that I know in the TLC, persons that I know, like, like every once in a while I'll follow a big name thing, like somebody. I probably am going to want to check out the David Bentley Hart Christology stuff. But as a rule, I'm not going to prioritize that stuff because I don't know David Bentley Hart and I don't have a relationship with him. Like, send me a link about Peugeot or whatever. And like, I don't know, I'll watch Peugeot because he talked to you. But like, I try to put my money where my mouth is. Okay, I'm going to share this. One of the things I found interesting, and then I'm going to open it up. So this is Ross Byrd, Patient Kingdom. This is one of the areas where he talks about authority and call and response and moving mountains. I guess the cosmic middleman. On moving mountains part 2. So I didn't put this in my description. I probably should. Ross, forgive me. One of the things that I found very interesting, and as much as I know of Ross and what you've said, and that Ethan communicated to me about the call and response stuff, I think it's fantastic. I loved it. I think it's spot on, resonates with a lot of the stuff that I think and say. But then I noticed here, trustworthiness, heaven. Look, there's graphs. Trustworthiness down to earth, trust up to heaven. But in one of the, let's see, So in his footnote, he says, I noticed recently that the work, can we see this? That the work of George MacDonald and the more contemporary work of Mathieu Peugeot have almost perfect overlap regarding this point and others. Interestingly, when I asked Mathieu about it, if he was familiar with MacDonald, he said he was not. Fantastic. So, and that's from this quote, the problem for many Christians in our moment is that we lack the key. Jesus is the key, of course, but rather that we have lost the lock. We don't know how the key works, much less what it opens. But the riddle of the mountain mover shines a light once again on the lock. So I don't know, whatever. Check it out. I'm not gonna talk anymore because I've already done 40 minutes. I'm gonna drop the link. I'm gonna play some more branding. I'm gonna pin the link. And then I'm gonna talk to whoever wants to talk when they come in. And I'm gonna let the conversation go where it will, except within reason. Like, I mean, if it goes way off the rails or people want to talk about something ridiculous like politics, like I just said, I fucking don't care. And I don't want to. Go to 90% of the rest of the internet and go talk about politics because that's where they want to do it. See if it helps anything. I don't think it will. And yeah, very suspiciously. What's he doing? What's he doing up that early? Selling drugs? Doing drugs? Crack? Put guess what drugs Ethan's doing early in the morning in the comments. Okay. I'm gonna drop the link and then I'm gonna play branding and I'm gonna pin it. So that's what's happening now. Let's see.
The gas station franchise Racetrack just hit me with a promotion for a 1-cent holiday beverage. I got this Sprite Zero Sugar Winter Spiced Cranberry. It's got 0 sugar. It's got 0 almost everything. Has 55 milligrams of sodium, 5 calories just to prove it exists, but it's otherwise harmless. No caffeine, just a pleasant holiday fizzy flavor.
Sounds delicious. I'll buy a truckload. I'll buy a... How much do I want to buy? A lot. A lot. You know what branding I like? I don't want to give it away. And I don't know that it's my right to. But I came across some branding. Shut up! Shut up! Guess who we got? Get ready. Get ready to clip it. Get ready to the stream to be saved. Get ready for people. Like, all we need is we get this guy and then we'll get another guy and people will really enjoy it. Maybe the other guy's connection. Ooh, Fingies. Oh, look at it's Mr. Fingies himself. Mr. Fingies.
Get those clippers ready. Let's go. I'm ready for another sermon illustration.
Oh man, get your sermons ready.
This is the brilliance of the internet. I can influence sermons in California in a small Living Stones church.
Did you see that? Did you see that on Jeff's live stream the other day? Him and Paul Vanderklay kissed. We could kiss.
No, you're going the wrong direction.
No. Oh, because it
mirrors it for you. I mean, we're not doing it.
Okay. Look at he's so famous.
Mr. Sprite himself.
It's the famous guy.
Just because I dunk on your branding all the time doesn't mean you have to play me like that.
What sense of the word play are you using there? Is that a double entendre?
No, but are we starting? Can we talk about stuff?
No.
What the?
Yes.
What do you think this is?
First, Jess's video on Ecclesiastes with Jason and Yosef. Everybody has to see. Very, very good stuff.
Yeah, Yosef is really good. So is Jason.
Yeah,
Read
Yosef
it
was
this
bringing
year.
up some stuff I never thought about before. But enough of that. I was thinking, Luke, I've been thinking about you a lot lately and stuff that we've talked about over the years with relationships, relational meaning, relational belief, uh, personalist meaning, I guess. And anyways, this is not going to be super coherent, but there's this thing I keep thinking about where you have this you're so the reason you believe something growing up is because of relationships, because of your parents or your grandparents, and it's things that they taught you. And at some point, you hear something elsewhere, and it's like a book or it's online. So it's a video that you saw, and that is not connected to you, and you don't know that person. But why does that so often seem to usurp the person that you know? And at some point, you think, yeah, my grandmother just thinks all this goofy stuff, and like she doesn't get it.
Yeah,
And she seems like less of an authority all of a sudden, but she's the one you know. And it's like always just becoming your grandmother versus the internet. And why at any point would you forsake someone that taught you, that you've seen, that you've lived around? I guess one reason could be that they don't bear fruit or something like that. Like if you don't want to emulate them, like you want to run the opposite of them. But a lot of times it's really not that way. A lot of times it's like I still find them to be the best person I know, and yet I find this other source, this disembodied source, more credible than them. And
sure.
I can't really figure that out why. But then I also think, Luke, about you, and you have this streaming world now, and you're in the TLC, and you've got all these relationships that you're accumulating. But it's like, are you just kind of creating like a relational algorithm for yourself? Are you curating it for yourself such that because you're talking about, I call Chad or I listen to McMo or, but all of this is like something that you've kind of curated in a sense, rather than having had it thrust upon you. And anyway, none of that's super coherent, but
No,
it's
it
just on my
is.
mind
It
stuff.
is. And I want to say two things in reply. Because so the first thing, this curated thing, this whole space, if it's proper hospitality, this is very related to authority. And I think the Ross Byrd thing of call and response. And I've said this a lot. All I'm doing is sowing seeds. And I'm just saying things like I'm like even this kind of stuff. I predicted this comment. Like I talked about this before Nick said it. I knew somebody was going to say some shit like this. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm saying. Like obviously, I think this is the thing. Everybody thinks they're right, which is why they have convictions and opinions. Everybody thinks that. If they didn't think they were right, they would think something else. Like that's how that works. But to your point, though, Mitch, about this, it's a call and response. What I want to do here is a call and response. When I live stream and I monologue and I'm doing that, it's a call. I didn't make you click the damn link. You clicked the link. You responded. Like you didn't have to. It's not coercive. It's not. I mean, you could say it's manipulative. You could say it's mind control. I don't know. You make that decision. Like that's not up to me. If you think it is and you think I'm full of shit, don't click the link. Don't participate. Like I'm not forcing you to be here. But if you want to, then do. To your point about your grandma or reading books or doing anything, the thought that came to mind was the get out your bingo cards, but it's the Polanyi quote of doubt and belief being equivalent, where he says doubt and belief are ultimately equivalent. Doubt relies on a subterranean set of tacit belief in something else. So I'd say there's a couple things that could be going on when you grow up and you believe your parents, you believe your grandma, you believe all that stuff. Part of that is just the process of individuation. You know, you grow up believing your parents or not believing your parents, and maybe you'll come back around to believe them again later, but you have to sometimes go through this process of individuation. You know, like let's say you were raised somewhat of like a really conservative 7-day creationist evangelical, and then you go to college and you start studying evolution and you're just like, wait a minute, like that's all lies. But like what you have to discern through that process is like, so you start having doubt, right? You doubt what your parents told you, because all of this is really, it's the pistis thing. Everything is faith. That is my like absolutizing assertion, or I would say that anything that you actually believe is rooted in faith. So if you start doubting your parents, then you're believing something else. You're doubting them, but you believe something else. You just don't know what it is yet. But that doubt is a kind of faith. It's just a faith in something you don't know yet and you can't name. And that's like the
But
naming
why?
of
Why? What's making you believe in this other thing over them? Like this disembodied thing over them? What makes it seem more salient? It's like these, I guess, all these structures about expertise and like, obviously, or they're able to anticipate things that, or maybe you do find like some actual observable experiential hole in what your parents have said. And you say, oh, if they're wrong about this, I guess they could be wrong about everything. And the trust is sort of thwarted.
Yeah. I don't know that you always do doubt your parents. Like some of that is you bullshitting yourself, I think.
Oh yeah,
And
maybe. Do you have
and there's this
a kind of a selfish reason to doubt them, where the doubt is
right,
expedient?
right. But
But I
sometimes
think
that's
genuinely
legit.
though, people that are to just use a boring term, that are deconstructing, they seem to very sincerely like have some trouble, because they encounter all of these sources and all of these ideas that are contrary to the way that they were raised, and there's something believable enough in them that
Hmm.
troubles them, and
Or
makes them.
yes, there has to be some seed of doubt in that. Like, I mean, essentially the same kind of thing happened to me with my, and it wasn't parents, but it was like church stuff and my religious upbringing with the hell stuff. Because like when I got exposed to like all the history and the development of hell stuff, I felt, and I don't know that it was done intentionally. I think it really was more systemic. This is where I like the postmodernist critical theory stuff. I don't think that my pastors and parents and stuff intentionally lied to me about all the variety of the doctrines of hell that were out there. I just think they were ignorant of it. But somewhat I resented that, as I was like, I don't tell me what to believe when you
This is
like
a great
really
example though.
dogmatically, when you don't have any idea what's going on.
But you're saying they don't have any idea what's going on because he found this other source, and you're saying, oh, now I realize they're ignorant because this disembodied source seems more right. And it seems more right because, I don't know, it's charting this history, it has technically more information, or like,
Mm,
what is it? That's what I'm getting at. It's like, what makes us trust that disembodied thing over the embodied thing? What makes that seem more right than
mm.
our parents?
Mitch, this is good. This is like a good example because you're holding my feet to the fire, because I'm saying I'm not, because right there, what that was I was trusting people that I knew through YouTube and through a technology versus like my embodied local people. Like that's what
Um,
happened
Yeah.
there.
I,
Yeah, go
I,
ahead. Ian.
I feel like I identify with this very strongly. Even you used the example of doubting your grandma, and I just said that with I think with Aaron, so it'll come out on Monday. But it's like I I used my grandma as an example because she's amazing, and she's like the paragon of Christian virtue in my community here locally now, and uh, and growing up, she lived in a different town with my grandpa, and he was a pastor, and she was a huge pillar of that church community as well. And so she's just this like legendary figure of embodying Christian sacrifice and love and all of these things. And yet, when it comes to like certain practical linguistic things, I get a little bit icked out by the things she would say are the most important, because I don't necessarily see the correlation between the life that she lives and those practical uh, points of doctrine maybe that she would espouse. And so it's a very interesting uh, little quandary, but I think it ties into what Luke called individuation. I think that might also just be correlated to the word uh, deconstruction in our culture as well, because I think of like deconstruction as the breaking down of whatever is like breaking off the dead branches. And I think a lot of the language and doctrines that I have the ick about are things that I want to break off of myself, like things that don't that I have problems with. So what I'm trying to say is that we are attempting to individuate by pushing back against these pillars in our embodied community by saying different things. And I think I also have globbed onto the TLC as a group of open people willing to talk about these things, willing to have these conversations in good faith, but also with very low stakes. Like I could say just about anything on this stream, and we could all come back tomorrow and do the same thing, no problem, you know. And you might be like, wow, I'm worried about that Ian guy, but not really. Like it doesn't affect you personally. And where with my family, it's like, okay, Ian's saying this stuff and I agree or I disagree, but I don't know if we're relationally equipped to have those conversations. And I'll say for myself, I don't know that I'm able to have those types of conversations with people that are like about disagreement. And so when it's like the whole point of Luke's streams is just to find out that Luke is right or has been right the whole time. It's like that is not the whole point of like conversations with my grandmother. That would be dumb if I was like just trying to colonize her. It's supposed to be some sort of like push and pull, and I feel like we don't know how to go about those kinds of conversations where it's I want to say something to adjust what my grandma is claiming doctrinally, but I also need to adjust myself to maybe embody some of the ways that she lives out Christian virtue and sacrifice and love in the community, because I don't do that the same way that she does or has for 85 years, you know.
You're muted. Part of it, Jess, I want to know what you have to say, but not skank. Just show us your coffee. No words.
I'm listening, and I'm gonna hop back in. So I'm sorry, but I have to go for a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Part of it too is like I think a lot of this stuff, like the very, very big picture stuff, is knowledge of the tree of good and evil, judgment, like this is good, this is bad, versus the tree of life. And I think you have to go through the tree of the knowledge of good and evil to get to the tree of life. And so you have to look, and I think that's part of the life of suffering, is going through this life of making judgments. But in that, part of that, what I'm trying to say related to your grandma, and this is almost like the midwit meme, or the like, you know, you have to leave, the T.S. Eliot thing that Al Ohm was quoting, and we often have to quote, is like, you have to leave your town. Like no prophets welcome in their own hometown. You have to leave it to come back to find out like it was fine all along. Like you're like, this is wrong, this is bad. And then you come back and you're like, actually, from a new vantage point, it's actually not wrong. And it's just different. It's just a different thing. It was right in its own context and in its own way. But part of that is too, is like the painful thing. So like in my case with the hell thing, I don't think these people were, I'm more mad at the powers and principalities and systems that siloed my religious forebears so much that they couldn't tell me the stuff that I really wanted to know. But even in that pain and that process, I learned stuff. I learned to eventually forgive them. It's kind of like, it's just the Douglas Harding stuff. It's the stages of development, you know, like you're a kid, you're a teenager, your parents are idiots. And then 25, you know, they're like, oh, they made me know something. And 35, and you're like, oh, I am my parents. I have tons of compassion for them because like I understand what they were going through. But you don't get there without going through all that, you know?
Yeah. I want to push back against some of this because, like, why should you take your grandma's advice on the doctrines of hell? Like, what? Because, like, you're like, because she's relying on some authority, and I think sometimes we kind of realize that she's going off of something. that's not her specifically. And so like I think like part of the I'm not going to believe my parents on this thing is also I'm not going to believe necessarily the authorities that they got their information from. So it's like I think we kind of I don't know, maybe that can be cope or something, or not. It could be an error. Maybe your grandma has like a specific experience of maybe she died and went to hell and then came back to life. You know, some crazy story. But I think if she told that story, that's a lot different than if she's like espousing something that she heard some pastor say around the corner who, you know, got his, you know, it just like, you know, that you know your grandma's getting her information from the corner church, and then so you're really not questioning grandma, you're questioning the corner church, and then dissing pastor. I mean, like, okay, so we're appealing to like it. Some of it's just like an appeal to authority. Your parents have come to these conclusions, so the parent and you want your kids to like not have to deconstruct whatever, and so you tell them what you think is right from what books you've read and all the stuff, and then well, I don't know.
I mean, part of it maybe
I want to defend grandma. I want to defend grandma.
Do it.
I think part of it's just like recognizing the lane that grandma is living in. And I think for Vicky's, 4 P's of knowing is helpful here. The reason grandma has a certain kind of authority is because, assumably, she's been trying to live out these doctrines for years. And the thing is, if you try and live something out, especially if it's contradictory, either it's going to break you, or the contradictions are going to hopefully smooth themselves into a livable system. System is the wrong word, but again, it's like because grandma has been trying to live these things out for her entire life, that gives her a particular kind of authority because she's been on the field, she's been playing the game, so to speak, and it's by virtue of her experience, like she has a right to be listened to. Now, if you're dealing with like the breadth of like technical knowledge and stuff like that, like that's on the personal level, not necessarily the propositional level.
Well, at some point, like grandma needs to say, "Hey, go talk to the priest or go talk to the pastor about this. Like, stop talking to me about this." Like,
well, maybe I don't actually. So I'm going to disagree. I'm going to maybe go further down what Skank was talking about here, because to some degree, right? Yeah. I mean, she doesn't have to be consistent. One, like, it's totally right. Like, to his point, like, this could be contradictory. Like, this may not. We talk about formation, right? And Paul's on, so formation, Paul, right? Like, you have, you can have beliefs that are like core to your formation. You can have beliefs that like come with other parts of the package, but like don't necessarily shape your behaviors, right? Like in the same way, but they're just part of the package, right? So like her package of Christianity came with X beliefs, and they, which of those actually are the ones that like push the levers to like push her to be like a saintly person is hard to tell. It's really, you're not gonna be able to like necessarily pick and choose and figure those out. At the same time, like the ones and the parts of her that allowed her to get to smoothing out the contradictions to like create a whatever smooth picture there, holistic picture there, Skank, like they may not be the same ones that will work for you, right? And that's like one of the other challenges, right? Is that you have this thing where, Ecclesiastes, since we just talked about him, he's on my mind, right? Like, there's nothing new under the sun, but at the same time, Proverbs is going to say you should go and learn the instruction of your father and the teaching of your mother. Not that like it's going to apply exactly in the same way for your era and your circumstances. And Ecclesiastes still has to, he still has to test out all the wisdom. He gets the wisdom, but it doesn't just mean it will work. And like, right, there is this like acknowledgement of this tension. It also reminds me of our conversation yesterday about your son, Jess, which was a great conversation. Like it was a hard conversation. It was very applicable, but it's also related to this, right? Because in some ways, your son is doing the same thing as Ian is talking about with his grandma, where it is like you have all the received wisdom from your ancestor, parent, grandmother, whatever, and then you're like, and then you test out and see whether like it's actually true that what they're saying is working and doesn't work, and like what parts of it like are gonna not fit in your world or not fit or maybe not be true anymore. Maybe perennially they're true in some sense, but like on a microcosm scale of your life, you might need, do you answer the fool to his folly or do you not answer the fool to this folly, right? You have both of those verses and you have to kind of figure out which of those to go at any given time. And that's like a real tension. And like you have this received wisdom and it is wisdom. It's not right. Like it helps her fit, her agent to her arena, right? Whatever. Like at some point, some of it also might be kind of no longer as useful. Like it might have worked 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And it might even be that she, not asking the pastor might have been part of that wisdom, right? Like because maybe there were not as good like at some point in her life, she might have had a bad pastor who was misdirecting her or she didn't agree with. So she might not point you in that direction, right? That may not be like her touchstone in the same way that it would be, in your advice. And yeah, I mean, that's like, how do you sort, how to sort all that? It's really just gonna be difficult, obviously. But you have to do it through real experience, right? That's to Luke's point. Like he's gonna listen to the people online over his parents, and then he tests out the ideas, and hopefully over time, he comes to some conclusion about like, okay, maybe the people online were right for my experience, but I also don't need to be as hostile about my parents' beliefs as I was when I was like 20 or something. And maybe like there's a path there too. It's just like can't be the path for me.
I think part of it, to bring it back in, to tie it to the call and response thing, though, it's a versus like cause and effect mechanism of power. That I think that's probably what I think that's a lot of what I wanted. I mean, we'll see how it works out for my kids, because that's a lot of what I do with my own children is I tell them like, this is what I think. This is what I think you should do. I'm giving, especially as they age, I'm trying to give you my wisdom, but like, I'm also not going to tell you to, I mean, I just had this thing with my son who's right here with like his whole college thing. I was just like, this is what I think you should do. But if for some reason in yourself, in integrity, you feel like you can't do that, I'm not going to tell you to go against your conscience. I'm not going to tell you to do that. But this is what I think you should do. So you have freedom here, but you have also freedom here. And then we had this long conversation late at night. And he's like, well, then I don't know what to do because I could do either. And I'm like, well, then I'm telling you, do this then. I already told you, do that then. And he was just like, and so it's one of those things where like, I think that's ultimately where authority really lies is if he trusts me, I'm telling him what to do, but I'm also not telling it, but like, I'm never going to tell him to do something that is going to deny his conscience, because I think it'll destroy his soul, which I don't think I wasn't allowed that freedom.
I'm thinking of like my specific grandma and grandpa, in like my grandma and grandpa on my dad's side. Like they never told me what to do ever. Like my grandpa wrote me a note once when I graduated high school telling me to be careful with money, basically. And they were secular, community involved people, but like had all, didn't go to church, didn't have any religious feelings at all, as far as I know. But like, my grandma, my memory of my grandma at the end was she drank beer and smoked cigarettes and laughed and that, this is, and they didn't have funerals. They didn't even have, I don't even know if they had a memorial service. Like they were very like my dad went to visit my grandpa when he's in the nursing home. He's like 99 years old. And my grandpa started crying because he was afraid that he was too much of a bother. He was like, I hope this wasn't too much of a bother for you to come and see me. Like, he was so concerned about being like a my grandma and grandpa just did not want to interfere with anything at all in any way. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but like, they were so like, we're not going to be a burden. We're not going to what's the word? They're not going to we're not going to step in. We're not going to do, like, this is, and it's kind of funny because my mom and dad, when I was little, became Christian. So they didn't like this. And then they actually went into the ministry, which they didn't, my grandparents didn't like even more, but they were sort of just like, my dad's name is John, and they would just be like, well, John, and just, that's their attitude, towards, and so like some of this, when we're talking about like the wisdom of the grandparents being handed down, like I can imagine the grandma that's doing that, and sort of like I've known families where that's been, the grandparents have been a little bit more hands-on or involved or something to a degree. So some of it's imagined, but in my own experience, like if they wanted to, if they were trying to communicate anything to me, it was to, take care of yourself. Don't interfere with other people. What's the other? Like, don't just step in and start. Like they didn't have. I don't know. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking about. And I'm even thinking about some of the older folks in our church. So our church was like a church plant, and then we merged with like an older congregation that was kind of fading. And so some of those people were at the church, and one of the things that this isn't characteristic of all these people, but in one instance, they approached some of the older folks and was like, hey, would you like to come in and help lead a Sunday school group for the youth or something? Like, wouldn't it be great if you could pass on your wisdom and your faith of all these years? Many of these people, lifelong churchgoers, and there was one lady who was like, absolutely not. She was so anxious about just the idea of being in front of people and talking. Like, it wasn't even a consideration. She's like, no, I can't do that. She's like, let the pastor do that. Let someone else do that. Like, I'm just going to go to church. And
we also live in like just an unfortunate time, in that our world is really, really alien to our grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can't fault them a lot for being like, I don't know what the hell to tell you guys. I don't recognize this world.
Yeah, and their parents, like my grandparents' parents, like didn't talk to them about any of this stuff. They were kind of like semi-religious, semi-secular. Like, then World War II happens. The whole world is kind of like changing in front of them. And, my grandma was an expert gardener. My grandfather was an expert woodworker. Like, they kind of had these things they applied themselves to, and that didn't really get handed down. Like, my dad is a pretty good woodworker, and I'm a little bit worse than him. So like, I know how to run a table saw, thanks to my grandpa and my dad, but I don't know how to do all the things they could do.
Yeah, but I bet they can't live stream at all. I bet they suck at that.
Yeah, but they don't know anything about the Book of Job.
It's all, yeah. What I was thinking of is that there's trade-offs. It really, even intergenerationally, there's no solutions. There are
So
trade-offs.
I was thinking about the family, like the patriarchs of Israel, and the way that they pass down their wisdom through the generations all the way to, you know, the traditions that we have today. Like there's in Hebrews, it talks about faith and like the experience of trusting God as the thing that gave gave them approval, but it's also the thing that God says will fulfill Abraham's the promise he made to Abraham. So it's like, I think so I was thinking about that and the individuation, because you're talking about woodworking, and like you don't have to be good at woodworking just because your grandpa was really good at woodworking. That might not have anything to do with the person that you are, like intrinsically. And so it's an interesting thing, because if it's too much of the previous generations, then you just have weird people. Like my sister-in-law married a guy who was one of like 19 kids from this missionary family, and they're like, the King James Bible could correct the Greek, that kind of Christian. And so he's weird, and we all think he's weird, but he's like the grandparents in this generation, where he's like, I don't know what to tell you guys, like because he's like out of time or something, because he's just this strange manifestation of the previous generation, but he's 22 years old or whatever. And so it's like, that's not great. It's fine, it's whatever. He's a person, and he's living and making choices and whatever, but like it's weird because he's deaf to some of the things that are actually going on. And yet if I think Paul said this on one of the videos recently, like if you change too much, you die, but if you don't change it enough, you also die. And so that's just kind of the balance. And to get back to my patriarch thing, it's like they pass on their relationship with God and all the different names and ways that he shows up throughout their history to their children, and their children do the same on down the generations. And that's extremely valuable, because God is constant throughout all of the change. And yet when you say like this way of life is the way that we have to do it, and it should be like this, well then when it's an ice age and you used to live in the jungle or whatever, then all of the rules are changing. So you need to be able to adapt to like the Tao or the Spirit of God, or what, you know, what is evolutionarily adaptive in your current climate. And so the ability to adjust the like the crystallized intelligence to some form of ascendant value and find the thread through the changing climates, that's what those are the conversations I'm interested in having with the previous generations. But I can also see, like, my dad is a grandparent now, and I can see like myself shifting in my relationship with him from everything that this man says goes. Like, those are the rules, those are the perspectives that we all adopt, and this is, you know, my own family dynamics. But I can see myself shifting almost into the perspective of my son, like, yeah, that's grandpa, and that's the way that he thinks about things. It doesn't mean that it's authoritative in any way, but it does have some authority to it. But the conscience also has authority in my son or in myself as we navigate our current climate.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Well, it's about like, it's also about like how do you show proper respect towards that authority, and how do you navigate the unique challenges that you feel like, or you're approaching some sort of novel thing for you, and you don't see how what your parents or grandparents are talking about applies to it. And so then it doesn't, like, your parents may be like, no, this does apply to it, and I'm telling you it applies, but for your young brain, you're just like, I don't see how it applies and how this speaks to the situation, and maybe you just know it in retrospect. But yeah, and in our culture is there's some cultures where, like, whatever the parents or grandparents say goes. It doesn't matter if they're wrong or not. Like, you sort of, like, there's cultures like that, and we're sort of, American culture is not like that. I mean, my grandparents taught me not to do that. That's, I mean, they didn't explicitly say it, but they're just like, don't, yeah, don't, yeah, don't, there's no authority or no respect that you necessarily have to give us. They wanted us to like them and love them, but they didn't expect anything. And I don't know if they felt disappointed by, I don't know if they probably did, especially when my parents became religious, kind of were disappointed. Maybe they had some sort of other plan, but they had all kinds of regrets about life, I think, in different ways that, didn't get resolved. And so you wonder even if, like, they're projecting onto the family below, or yeah. But even, like, how I'm talking about it now, this weird psychologizing of everything is like a tradition now in in our culture, where we got to psychologize everything, and it really sidelines the authority and the respect, that maybe we were trying to avoid. And yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, a couple of the things that I was thinking, I missed some of what Ian was saying, but the intergenerational thing, because I feel like I've gone through a lot of iterations myself, and like, even on the, Nick said something about the Zizekian thing, which I've been thinking a lot about, the oppressive parenting versus the permissive parenting, and it's just a different kind of oppression, really. And I was thinking that, so two things. So in a sense, like, my dad, for example, my dad was for sure more of like what up, Nick? I'm muting you right away. My dad was for sure much more of the just tell you what to do. I mean, he didn't really give a shit if you liked it.
Yeah.
Like, he couldn't care less if you liked it, but he was like, you're gonna do this. So he was definitely that old school kind of parent, where my mom was almost the opposite. She was probably the other kind of parent, where she was trying to colonize my heart and soul and mind a lot more. Like, my dad didn't care at all. That's not the game he was playing. And then the other thing is, I've even learned this in my marriage with the whole psychologizing thing. Like, we are, my generation, my age, our age, kind of, Jess, Skank, probably we're similar. It is, you're younger though, so much younger and more handsome. But we psychologize everything. Like, it's like a fun found. If you can explain something psychologically, we're like, oh, that's just how it is. Like, the psychologizing it is the truth.
Yeah.
And that's not legitimate. Or we grew up with romantic comedies of where, you think of the boomers or the greatest generation or whatever, they didn't talk about things a lot. They didn't talk about their feelings. They didn't and we think, oh, like, how unenlightened, that they didn't talk about their feelings. Well, they were doing it somewhat unconsciously, I think, most of them, but there's a great wisdom in not overly talking about your feelings. Like, I'm slowly learning that, it doesn't take that much. So, Nick, you're here. Talk to us. Never mind.
Oh man, it scared everybody away.
I know, I guess. I don't know what happened to Jess. He probably had like a work call. And I'm looking at comments.
Okay. I'm going to push back on the Zizek thing a little bit, just
Do it.
because commies are just going to hate authority, internal or external, and that's part
Probably
of the
true.
problem. And that's part of the problem is this equivocation between authority and oppression. And again,
Or
we make
authority
that
and coercion.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we right, and we make that equivocation because we have so many experiences of bad authority, unjust authority, excessive authority.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, because of this, I mean, so you get two sometimes anarchists on the stream right now. So, yeah, of course, we get very frustrated when they overstep their bounds. And the people with authority, they have the power to do that. But I mean, that's the thing. That's one of the big things we're looking for. And I don't know, like part of the subtext is respecting another person's individual conscience. But part of respecting them is taking them seriously enough to challenge them when their conscience is poorly formed.
Yeah, it's just I think
Or
at the end of the day, in any proper relationship, like you can say your piece and you can state it even strongly, but ultimately, I mean, it's different with children, I suppose, when they're really young. But at the end of the day, like I can't tell you what to do. And I think that between adults or like between spouses or something, like that's something I'm in a group chat that's been talking about that. I'm gonna mute you. It's been talking about that a bunch lately about how ultimately at the end of the day, in any relationship, all I can do is control myself, and I can establish certain boundaries and say these are my limits, these are the things that I'm not gonna do and or I will do, and hold myself accountable to that. But like you can be doing stuff and I can tell you I don't like what you're doing, but I can't control you at the end of the day unless I'm going to use force and coercion. And I'm one of my principles is I don't want to do that. You know, I'm not really willing to do that. So I might want to sometimes, you know, but that's kind of one of my ultimate principles. And I think that's the difference. Like that's authority and power. Like I don't I'm going to lay it out of what I think, how I see things, and you can either accept it or not accept it. I mean, it's seeds and soils, you know? It's up to the soil.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was looking at. Adam and Eve. And I think so much of this stuff really comes down to temperament, really.
Oh yeah.
Because Nick is even Nick left or whatever, but Nick often thinks I'm
Oh
saying,
yes, let's shit talk Nick, please.
yeah. I mean, he thinks I'm like telling people what to do. And I'm like, no, I'm giving very passionate opinions about things. If you don't want to do what I say, don't do it then. Like, I don't give a
I
shit.
think Nick is the only one who actually thinks you have influence over anyone else.
I don't know. I guess, yeah. I don't. Yeah. Nick's. That's the whole funny thing with like technology or mediums or anything or like criticizing. That's kind of like the protest spirit of criticizing, like in our like TLC world, like I'm a micro celebrity influencer. You don't like what I'm saying? Don't fucking watch. Don't listen to anything I'm saying. Like I'm not forcing you to be here.
I will say, now you are a micro celebrity. I was at the Northwestbury barbecue 2-3 years ago, and I just at that time I'd only seen like 1 or 2 of your streams, and I'm just like, oh, he's got fans. This is interesting.
It was. I was actually just talking about that the other day with my wife because I was thinking a little bit about the Minnesota thing. Do you have something to say? Or you're just my son's still here and he thinks it's hilarious thinking of me as some like
Dude, come camping with us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've told. Well, I don't know if I've talked to him about it. That's a good reminder to do it. But in a sense, I'm the kind of person that doesn't mind attention, but somewhat like the in person. You know, McMo has talked about that at Midwestuary or at North. It was more intense at Northwestuary, I think, because that was more like a Grail country world thing.
Yeah.
And I don't. It's made me think about how I want to do our Minneapolis conference, because I want it to be like Sherry was talking about, wasted time. I want a lot of wasted time. I don't want it to be really stage centric. I want it to be pretty small and chill, because that's something personally for me at like a conference. I think I would hate, like, I think about this. People talk about a celebrity and the burden of being celebrity. It's amazing to me of how many people think they want to be celebrities, but I think it would be terrible. I think it would be so awful. Like, people always it requires, like what Jordan Peterson does. If you're trying to be really present with someone and a lot of people want your attention, like, that's really draining. Like, it's really hard to do. And I don't really like it. Like, I just want to hang out with people, you know? And so,
Yeah.
like, I would love to be no more popular than I am right now. Probably less popular. Ian, listen, Ian's headed for the moon. His podcast, or you're like, I think you remind me, you were like a Seabax type, where I think of you guys pretty similarly, where you're talking about, I think, a lot of the right things, and I think largely you get the dynamics of like Christian YouTube, TLC, a lot of the stuff that I talk about, but then you leverage that in a prophyletic way that is a lot more universally palatable, probably, than my style, you know? And
That's funny.
yeah.
My dad has been talking to me about my podcast, like, and just saying, like, I don't know the words that you use. And he's like a super verbally intelligent person. Like, you can't beat him at Boggle or Scrabble, but he doesn't know the jargon and the lingo. So that's something that I've been like considering targeting in my conversations. Because like, if I talk to John Vervaeke, then we're going to talk about jargon. But if I talk to TLC people, we're going to talk about TLC language, using that language. But I do also want to be like a bridge. That's sort of the idea of the podcast as I conceive of it. It's like, I think that my phenomenology and a lot of other people's, or even just like the perspectives of philosophy and psychology and religion have a lot to say to each other, and for people, you know, like not just to each other in the academic sense, but for people. So I'm glad that you think that I'm talking about the right things. I hope to improve how I'm talking about them.
Well, it's probably largely just because I think you agree with me, and that's my ego. But Nick's here to tell us why we're both wrong. What's up, Nick?
How's it going, guys?
Oh,
What was the claim?
The claim.
it's not our job to educate you, Nick.
No, you guys said something about me. I can't remember what it was.
Stop
I
listening.
don't know. Well, this is even a boundary thing. Sometimes I've wondered this about you and me, Nick. Do you have something?
I was only trolling today because you said I was doing so great yesterday. You're the only reason I'm here today. That's
You are. I think you, like, in text. Yeah, text is your medium. Like, you have a face for text, a face for radio. No, I'm just kidding. I think it is because I actually think you're good on screen too. And with practice, you'd probably be great. But it's like, in text, like, I wish I could be. You're quippy, but it's no surprising that, like, you like G.K. Chesterton, because you say deep, interesting, and very funny, sometimes snide things in text very well, which is great. You're really good at it.
Also, bit of a blowhard like Chesterton.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. What up, Jacob? You're gonna take a break from streaming with your with those other YouTubers?
Oh,
Everyone?
oh my God! Last night I went on a Christian panel. Oh wow!
It was probably terrible.
Insane, insane.
What kind of fun things did you hear?
All kinds of things. But I came on a mission to
Ooh.
ask you why Matt, Nick, and I are going to Matt's wedding, and you're not, Luke.
Well, I mean, part of it is I like this month, like actually, yeah, until the first week of June is probably going to be like one of the busiest months for just different family stuff that I've had for the entirety of my family.
Excuses,
So.
personalists, Yeah, Matthew is one of our own. We're all going to his wedding. There's going to be hundreds of people from the TLC there, maybe thousands.
You're like
so much. If you didn't get an invite, you should treat it as a personal insult.
You always take it. You're the one who's always just like have children, family. Like when we talk about TLC, the local's the most important, and you want me to shove all that off.
Your family's not important.
Yeah.
Online relationships are far more important than your kids or your wife or anything like that.
The whole point of family is to stand by you no matter what you do.
Even when you leave them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. This is like I was trying to ask Jess the other day. There's someone who said this. It's a very Peter Rollins thing when he's just like, do the thing, you'll be unhappy. Don't do the thing, you'll be unhappy.
Okay, I have one other question.
Yeah.
Now that you're wearing tank tops, are you going to start an OnlyFans?
Only tanks. That's what I've talked about. Yeah. Part of that is for this was a joke with because Jason, who always is in tank tops year round, just like you can't get him out of it. We were. I'm in a group chat with him and Lucas Van Oss, who popped on the stream last night.
I remember. Yeah.
But Lucas is. I mean, easily. Lucas is the most jacked in the TLC. Like I've seen. I mean, he has. I mean, you've probably seen his shorts and stuff. Like the dude is unbelievably ripped. And so we joked about having a us three on stream, and we call it Only Tanks because we're in a group chat.
You actually did that, didn't you?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So I saw that.
Yeah, we're like the
you
TLC bros.
You got you're all internet thoughts.
I guess. I don't even know what that is really.
That hoe over there, thoughts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know any of this language. My son knows some of this language. Cal is always telling me stuff. Like him and Jason were sending deep things about, like they've been talking a lot about look maxing and clavicular lately, which is interesting. Like philosophically, it's kind of fascinating to think about.
I hate so much that I know the name clavicular. You don't understand. Like I'm like, why have I heard this man's name so many times? And he just keeps on coming up.
Yeah.
I come on the Luke Thompson personalist, theological, deep. Sorry, my I got a new shipment of squeaky toys for my dog yesterday, and he has not destroyed them yet. So that is what you hear.
Lovely.
But
I've never seen one of these. I've never seen one of his videos. I don't know. I mean, I heard about him first with Andrew Callahan, I think. And but it is interesting. Look at who we got. Got a big
I think it's
fish.
interesting because I feel like Clavicular took the space of Fuentes on my algorithm, and maybe it's just because I didn't interact with Fuentes at all. But not that I interact with Clavicular. I'm just saying like they're suggesting the next thing, but it's like a weird. They're two groups of thoughtless followers, is what I would say. and yet somehow they get pushed to the top of everyone's
That
salient
is
hierarchy.
interesting. Is Clavicular better or worse than Fuentes?
I don't know. I think he's potentially less harmless.
What is
No.
kind of interesting?
I totally disagree. The idea of taking a hammer to your own face, which lots and lots of people may end up doing, is much more likely than taking a hammer to a Jew, which is what Fuentes would do, because most people never see a Jew.
Yeah, I mean that's the great question of the day. Hammer your own face or hammer a Jew? You know, I think to me, what's interesting is I like people like him somewhat because I think it's fascinating on a philosophical level because he's just making explicit what a lot of people are thinking inside their heads, but just lying to themselves and everybody else about. Like the stuff when he asked that of Andrew, because that came up. Cal was making this point, which was really interesting when he was talking to Andrew Callahan at the end of the conversation that kind of went viral and blew up, where he was mad at him for not asking questions. And he was saying, so like, you're completely satisfied with your appearance. And Andrew Callahan was like, yeah. And he's like, okay, if we're going to play that game, fine. But there's a lot of meta conversation that could be happening there. Like, is Andrew Callahan telling the truth? Is he lying to us? Is he lying to himself? Is he, like...
Okay, I'm going to be sorry I asked this question, but who's Andrew Callahan?
Channel 5.
Yeah, he's at Channel 5.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, so Fuentes and Clavicular are both claiming unearned authority, I feel like, because Fuentes is like smart and charismatic, and maybe Clavicular is charismatic, but they're using the hacks, like a suit and a news desk is expressing some form of like intellectual expertise for Fuentes, but then for Clavicular, it's strictly, like sex appeal, attractiveness. And those are the two like hijack ports for trust that you can hack people's brains and have them trust you. So there's like an interesting the two faces of narcissistic authority claiming. And then I wanted to say, just for Claire's sake, to tie back to the video title, the idea of conscience, and how I feel like the reason that those people can be popular is because people are completely out of touch with their consciences, which I would blame on marketing and maybe like just the general what do you call it, entropy of human morality or something. But like I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on this. I just wanted to get back to the title for Claire.
I think that the looks maxing at least is focused on self-formation, and formation of conscience is really how do I structure myself so that I am better. Now, you make it as superficial as possible and you get looks maxing. So it feels like there's a strain of truth in the ownership there and the self-formation element, but completely misdirected. But I think that could be a path to, hey, maybe I shouldn't just be look maxing. I should also be morally maxing, which is the good.
I was in a conversation yesterday that kind of turned towards like a question of like, is excessive focus on health idolatry? And I pushed back really hard because like, no, like health, like as far as like secondary, as far as like, like moral goals that you orient your life around, health is probably one of the best to sit just below the top of the hierarchy. Because I mean, like it's the sort of thing where like you discover there's no botting, and after you get like physical health sorted out, then you start to ask like, what about social health? What about spiritual health? Stuff like that. It's the sort of, it is one of those things that has no bottom in a good way.
No. It definitely has a bottom in a good way. I would say Cartesian dualism, like the idea that your mind and your body are completely separated from each other, is like materialism, which is a kind of idolatry.
Well, I'm not
if you don't
presupposing that at
see,
all.
I didn't say you were,
Yeah.
but you're saying that, health. If it's just your physical health and it doesn't include your spiritual health, if your mind, body, and soul are not united in any way, then yeah, it can be idolatry. It's idolatry of the self.
Okay. No, fair point. Fair point.
So
My thinking
community looks
is that
maxing.
once you kind of bottom out at the physical, you start to notice there's more than just internal things that are affecting my health, my quality of life. And like we even get like who's the douchey doctor guy on like YouTube and whatnot, who's like, yeah, no, I pray for my mental health or whatever.
I don't think he's douchey, but I think you mean
Uh,
Andrew Huberman.
Oh yeah, that's him. That's him. Kind of.
By the way, Jason, Jess, and Yosef dropped a video yesterday, and it's fire. And if you haven't seen it,
It's already been pushed. It's already been promoted, Jacob. Also, no insulting Huberman or Chris Williamson while Ian is here.
Thank you.
Ian,
Thank you.
part of it is like I like eating well and health stuff, and it probably can be idolized a little bit, but I've had conversations with people in the corner before about how like it's even why fasting, I think, is it's not Cartesian in the sense that like that kind of physical embodied health training can be like laying the foreground for spiritual training. Like a lot of patience and long suffering and all that kind of stuff, like you don't know how impatient you are until you're like stressed when you're hungry. Like most people have never been hungry, because they've never fasted. And so like you think you're patient because you've been just like super comforting your body your whole life, or like, but it's not, but then you can make an idol of anything,
I think the health people often, I'm clearly not one of those people, but they often go to a space of like meditation, mindfulness. Like there's a shift that happens at some point where it's like, okay, no, this isn't about just my body. I need to meditate or do yoga or something. And I really think that if you're properly ordering and you come at your health with like good intentionality, it will shift you to a spiritual dimension. There's a crux where it becomes not just health, but health and mindfulness. And so I think there's a path there to something more. So I guess I'm agreeing with Skank.
What happened to Paul Vanderklay?
He fell in. I was gonna say that the health people, I think they like, I find this too, although it goes in spurts for me because of family and work and stupid TLC live streams. But like when I do consistently go to the gym, there is a meditative aspect to that. Like it's very difficult to be physically present and executing whatever exercises I'm attempting, and to be sort of like separate in mind and body. Like I have to align even for the rudimentary purpose of like curling or pushing up or whatever I'm doing. And it's like there is a being where I am that takes place in that. And even just the discipline of like, I go to the gym, like I have to get in the car and I have to navigate the road to get to my gym. And then I have to go in and put my specific shoes on, and all of those little elements of ritual and habit align my mind and body. And then I don't know how it works per se, but I would say that like your soul, like we are aligned ultimately. So it's like maybe I'm not consciously observing my soul in any particular way through a workout, but I do feel like if you have two things that are coming closer together, the soul can't be too far away from that practice. Just like prayer would maybe be a more soul first version of this, but the mind is also in need of training to be participating in prayer in a whatever good way. And then lots of people will find, oh, and if I sit like this, or if I go, prostrate on my face, then that will affect the way that I'm praying. So you just learn how to incorporate, Insight Incorporated.
Yeah, there it is. JD, I want to get a word from JD, but yeah, that's true. Like something as simple as like even running, like you learn endurance and long suffering running, because that's like, I hate running. I'm going to go for a run in a little bit and I hate it every time. I have to talk myself into it because it's torture. It sucks so much. Running is not fun.
I'll be honest. I have I have changed up my exercise routine to get rid of that friction of trying to get to the gym and everything. I still have my gym membership. I go there like once or twice a week, but I've been really getting into this whole like doing a ton of walking thing. And like when I'm doing other things and I'm like, well, I got other things I'm trying to do right now, I can walk and do them, So I just been doing that barefoot as much as possible, pacing through the house.
Hell yeah,
You know what I
boy.
mean? It makes it easier. But no, I exactly. Hey, I when I was young, I had flat feet, and I started going barefoot all the time, and I have arches now. So
Dude, hell yeah.
I very strongly believe in barefoot.
Jason,
But
our like dirty hippie of the corner, who just like Jason even has like a rat tail. He's like the most like podunk Tennessee hippie person ever, but he's barefoot everywhere. Like his feet are dirty. He tries to like go in Walmart barefoot.
He was barefoot walking down the aisle at his wedding.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's kind of that's a common in Orthodoxy, though.
What do you mean that's a common Orthodox thing? Since when is that a common?
People are barefoot a lot of times in Orthodox churches.
the priest at my wedding wore sandals. That's close as I can get. But
all right, let's get Womboy. What's up? Let's talk to us. I want to close this sucker a little after 2 hours too, because I don't want to go as long as yesterday. It's too much. I get tired. Are you ready?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I literally wanted to say one thing that may or may not actually be related, but it just occurred to me. So I've been thinking a lot about how women wear makeup differently now. And so I kind of, that's a funny comment. So I kind of researched it and tried to understand this. And it's actually, so young women now are more trying to look good in pictures than in real life. Like are more concerned with looking good on camera than looking good for real. So because I always used to wonder this, like why does this doesn't look good? Like why do they think this looks good? And it's actually, no, they're completely aware that it doesn't look good in real life, but they would rather look good for Instagram. So that's
like stage makeup.
Yeah, so everyone's wearing well, not everyone, but young women especially are wearing stage makeup all the time, which I just think is a real testament to how what's the word, depraved and psychotic.
I thought this was a Los Angeles thing. I didn't realize it was going on in other parts of the country.
I know, it's everywhere.
Californication, Jacob.
It's everywhere.
Womboy, I would recommend Freya India's most recent episode on modern wisdom. She's always awesome if you don't know who she is, but yeah, that was a good episode.
She just wrote a new book too that I've been meaning to read.
Who?
Yes.
I missed it.
Yeah, so I know who she is.
Freya India. And it's really interesting because she gets accused of being right-wing or Christian, but she didn't start out that way. It's not her tradition. I mean, I guess, like the Tom Holland sort of way, I guess, but she's really just trying to look at the data and sort of express maybe what is good or what could be better about young women's culture. And they talked a lot about what you just talked about, Womboy, and it is really startling because it is in our immediate relational communities in a way that, like, it doesn't come from our parents and it doesn't come from our grandparents. And I have to go right now. Sorry.
No, that's right. So one of the things I wanted to say about that, which I find fascinating, my wife, so we watch Love is Blind, trashy reality TV, but it's interesting because there's a lot of depth there. One of her favorite parts of the show is when they go on honeymoon together and they wake up the day after, like the next morning, and you see them without all
I
their
was
makeup
about to
on.
bring this up, dude.
Yeah.
What the hell? That's funny.
Yeah. It's the hive mind thing. And to me, it's such one of my dad's sayings. Oh, who was saying sayings all the Scott? I need to talk to Scott about like old timey sayings because my dad was full of these, but he'll say things like, you can make a silk purse out of a hog's ear, or like lipstick on a hog, or stuff like that. Because it's the same thing. I feel that way sometimes about makeup. It's total false advertising. Like if you can take yourself from a 3 to where you look like an 8, at least from a distance, come on.
It's kind of it's crossed over because it's no longer. I mean, women used to wear makeup in a way that kind of enhanced their natural features. Like I get that, but it's kind of gone over to the point where I don't even think it's attractive in a lot of cases.
Exactly.
And that's the stage makeup thing, which is insane. Like it's just crazy to me that we've gotten to the point where like 14-year-olds are wearing so much makeup that they don't even look attractive to like real human people, but they don't care because they would rather look good for the camera. That is a testament to something absurd and insane and concerning.
Yeah, we have a real big self-image problem right now in global culture. And my wife, what I was gonna say was her guilty pleasure is watching these like dating shows, and one of her favorite things to do in them is to be like, babe, okay, I want you to come here. I want to guess who your favorite of these women is. Like like we play like a guessing game with this stuff.
Yeah, it's fun.
And I'm always like, she knows. I'm like, babe, I don't even know what any of them look like right now. I have no idea what I'm looking at right now. And then so now she waits until like the next morning when they're all having breakfast. All right, babe, come, you know what I mean? Because it's like you're looking at like a mannequin. It's not a real person. But I actually joined because I wanted to say I actually feel really bad for that clavicular guy.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife and we watched that Manosphere documentary with Louis Theroux, and I was very kind of frustrated by it because I felt as though it's really easy to make these guys look stupid and foolish and toxic because they kind of are, but like they never really dig into why, like what has to they'll mock the male, they'll bring up like the male loneliness and the male self-image problem, but they'll do it in a mocking way. Like people, and like there's actually no one actually wants to dig into where that comes from and what to do about it. And like I don't know what I was going to say when I was driving, but that's sort of what you guys had brought me that. And like my mind went a whole thing. A lot of people just it was like the Kim Kardashian thing. When everyone was hating on her, I just felt bad for her because I'm like, I don't know, like, yeah, these people are rich and famous, but there's an emptiness there. And I don't understand hating on somebody for missing something that you have in spades.
Well, a lot of that's jealousy. I mean, I was honestly thinking that of some of my last stream with the Rolex stuff. Like, there's people hate rich people because they want to be rich.
Yeah, that too.
Which is bullshit. a lot of time.
That
Can I
too.
say
It's like,
something? Sorry.
no, go.
That's right. No, I told Womboy, stop interrupting. I
Yeah, he
chastised
told
her
me to stop
publicly
interrupting,
and
so I'm
privately.
extremely self-conscious about it now. But I wanted to say about Clavicular that he's like deeply autistic. He actually is, and looks maxing is like his special interest, which is a thing that autistic. He's like said this himself that he's autistic. So I also think that I feel deeply bad for Clavicular that the world has been such that even was an option for an autistic special interest. But like,
Yeah.
we all need to know that this boy is gonna either keep going the way he's going and die or change, because he does crazy things. He's talked about like doing meth and I don't know, hammering his face. He passed out the other day on a live stream because he like did too much GHB, and everyone's kind of considering this clavicular thing like it's normal. It's like, no, that's like a young man who was killing himself by doing all sorts of drugs and like generally acting completely unhealthily. It's not
really
even
sad.
Based.
it's really
Based.
sad.
Yeah.
To be fair, that is kind of a young man's game to, do stupid things to extremes that are unhealthy and are potentially going to kill you. That is what we're kind of famous for.
Hey, live fast, die young. What can I say?
Andrew, go ahead.
There's nothing much to say. The dude, he figured out the trick. He looks better than all y'all. And he's got his life sorted. He's living the dream. He is living the dream. He is living in paradise, and we are living in Galut.
I mean, he's like attractive to whom? Like the people that are attracted to that, I don't really care about attraction.
Everyone, they always preface their statements with like, yeah, he looks amazing, but I don't care about the but. The dude looks amazing, but he figured out the secret. He could sell that looks maxing thing for $5,000 and live rich for the rest of his life.
That's what he wants to do.
Yeah, but there's some like that God bless you being good looking and being rich. All more power to you, but doesn't it seem a little self-destructive? Like, I don't know. I don't follow him that close, but when he trends on Twitter or something, it's like another episode of him basically wrecking himself in some way. I don't know.
I don't know about
Whitestone. What
you
can I
guys
say?
bring him up. Also, Gray, Noah, we haven't heard from you. Noah is gracing us with his presence. President, we salute you. You were disagreeing in the comments. Jess is coming back. Good Lord. We're going to be full up.
Gray was here first, so I think.
Okay.
I don't really know.
Here. Let me tee you up, Gray, because I kind of summoned you.
Skank, tee me up, bro. You sent out the gray. You sent out the gray signal, and that's why I'm here. So.
Yeah, because and we are kind of there too, because we started talking about clavicular for a minute there, and the idea of like how superficial it is that he's looking for like to purely like looks maxing, and while that is a very poor goal that is clearly destroying him, it's sort of next door to a goal that is a little bit more noble, which is a focus on health is something that if you keep it kind of properly balanced is the sort of thing that has no bottom that should lead you more or less in the right direction. Like we even had a story, I think part of Ethan's story about how like he started getting worried about his health or trying to focus on like living a healthy life, and that extended out beyond like going to the gym and not eating crap to, what does social health look like? What does spiritual health look like? And Gray is very concerned that there's just too many fatties on the TLC timeline, which is why you see it.
No, bro, you can't do that to me. I can't believe you just teed that up that way. No, yesterday in a group chat, I just brought up that I thought sometimes one of the blind spots in the TLC is the physical aspect of like call it like health construed holistically across the mind, body, spirit. like the wholeness of our soul. And I think sometimes we throw around the word embodiment like really generously, but then never talk about like physical habits and ways of being with regards to what Jess is doing right now.
Kettlebells.
And I didn't say anything about anybody who is overweight. That's bullshit.
Well, I
but
feel personally attacked, but
that's not that's
no,
Gray only tells me privately people he thinks are fat. No,
no. But I see far less of that in our milieu than I do in the rest of the world. I mean, that's one of the reasons. Like, you know, I'm constantly hammering on the biological, especially, you know, I'm working in social work right now, and to say that we don't do it enough is like, are you seeing the rest of the world?
I don't think that what the average American or Western citizen looks like has any bearing on whether we are doing it enough. Like, I just don't. That's not what I'm trying to point out. Like, if the average person I walk around like has a resting heart rate of 120, that doesn't mean that it's okay for the average person in the TLC to completely ignore like what they're eating and what they're doing on a daily basis in a physical sense with regards to how it relates to their spiritual and psychological health. Not that I'm, and again, like this, like Skank teed it up in a funny way. I'm just interested in the topic of like, and honestly, like the direction you guys are taking is really, really interesting with what Womboy was saying. Really, the reason I jumped on was to point out that I think there's an interesting like what's the word? Sort of like a negative feedback loop, positive feedback loop, I guess, between the makeup stuff and the looks maxing and environmental factors that lead to like a decrease in sort of, call it like base level physical and psychological health that leads to something like a natural looks maxing. And so as we eat worse, as our environment is more toxic, as a huge one is screens, as you get more blue light blasting the face that you want to look so good for 8 to 10 hours a day, which is like the least natural thing about your environment. Yes, Ethan, it is a sin to eat Doritos. I've already told you that. As all of those things degrade your health from the inside out, and let's say your skin starts to become less and less healthy, it's less beautiful, you have to do more and more to actually cover it up and to look good. And then all of the social factors, like what Womboy was saying, you guys were saying before I hopped on, like it's a positive feedback loop that leads to a more and more artificial version of what beauty looks like, because a more natural and holistically healthy version of what it means to looks max or to be the most beautiful version of yourself is like less and less common, and also less and less possible from an environmental sense, or takes more effort. I would say in today's environment, it actually takes more effort in terms of a combination of actual effort of things to do, but also knowledge to gain, because we've lost so much knowledge about what it means to actually be holistically and naturally healthy in a physical sense, that it takes more effort to do it that way than it does to do it artificially. And so that's part of the problem too. I just think there's a positive feedback loop that leads to this artificial standard of beauty, and it is correlated with like worse and worse physical health. And I think you see that with guys like Clavicular and tons of girls who like look good, but like, you know, a guy I follow like recently just, you know, posted a picture. He's a neurosurgeon and does a lot of this stuff around circadian health, and a patient of his who was like a 26-year-old beautiful girl, but in the sense of like the world, like very artificially beautiful, and she just like all of a sudden woke up one day riddled with like multiple forms of cancer from experimenting with a bunch of different stuff. And you're like, oh, turns out like that was all bullshit. You were artificially beautiful, and your body is about to deteriorate very quickly to the point of death. And so that's kind of the point I'm trying to make. That's like a very extreme example.
But the sad thing is, she was probably beautiful before she was artificially beautiful.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. Yeah, that's.
Listen,
I'm not
listen,
trying
listen,
to. Yeah,
listen.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Listen. The playing field has like opened up so much, you know, like with modern society or whatever. You know, you gotta you know, keep up with the pack. You gotta go with the pace of traffic. That's what I'm saying. Anyhow, next point. Does anyone actually like care about health? I mean, like, does anyone actually like health maxing? Are we all like, you know, getting up at 5 a.m. and whatever going on around? No, we're not. We don't care, you know, like as long as we get by, you know, as long as we can do the stuff we actually want, you know, nobody cares about health. Health is like the secondary thing to do the actual things you want. You know what I mean? And
there's a
what if
there's a difference between okay.
Let me continue. What if the thing you actually want, is looks maxing, right? You want to look good. You want to like look in the mirror and be like, oh my god, I'm actually a Greek god today. I can do anything today. You know?
I disagree with you, bro.
Maxing doesn't get with you there. I don't. You're wrong. You're wrong, and you're ugly. Next point.
When you get a little older, you're gonna care more about health. I'm telling you.
You know, all this stuff about doing it natty, being all natural, doing it healthy. You know, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. We've tried it before, and it doesn't work. There's a reason why we're here. People, they invented makeup like 3,000 years ago. This gravy train was already rolling before I was born, before you all were born. And don't be telling me that all of a sudden it's a huge crisis. It's not a crisis. It's not a crisis. It's going to keep on going. And eventually we're going to get to the point where we all look beautiful.
For some context, Andrew is actually a certified physical trainer.
That's sick. I was a professional athlete and I've been a coach for 10 years and I know a lot about what I'm talking about too. We can do the whole authority fallacy. No.
No. That's not what I was saying in terms of authority. I'm saying he's talking smack because he's a schizo zoomer talking like everything he says is sarcastic.
There wasn't a single point of substance that whole rant. I know he's talking.
He should clip that little speech he just gave and put it on his like training website. That would be.
He should.
Also, I want to Noah hasn't talked yet. I want to make some space here what Noah's got to say. I do like that Andrew came on and got fired up. That's good.
Yeah. Two things that came to mind. One with kind of hopping off of what Andrew was saying. There is a sense in which like we treat health as a currency for something, right? It's like it's money. Like it's just to get where you need to go. So you just need to be healthy enough to do what you want. But are you aspiring to enough stuff to be able to maintain your health to that point, where that's like attracting a woman, or that's living till you're 80, or, you know, not having chronic issues. Like, I think there is a sense in which like, it's just to reach a point. Some people will just try to like stack it up. And it's like, well, what's the point of that? Like, you can just keep going forever. You can try to be a Brian Johnson, but if you're not like, if you don't have anything to live your life for, then who cares?
There are very few things in life you should be trying to do maxing with.
I kind of do maxing on all that. Cause like for me, that really is like the health thing. Like in as much as I'm able, I'm basically trying to health max as much as it's possible without pissing off my entire family. Like I do it as much as I can because I do want.
Well, that's why you're not fully maxing. You're balance maxing.
Well, I mean, yeah, somewhat. You know, otherwise it'd be an idol, right? Yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't. One interesting thing, Noah. Like, I don't necessarily think of health as like, I don't think health as like a functional thing to get me to where I can do the things I want to be able to do. It's like, I think the capacity. I guess you could say it's the same thing, but like, health is my ability to do the things I want to do. Like it is. Yeah. Like if I can go on a 15-mile hike with my daughters when they're, you know, have boundless energy when they're 15 years old, and I can live, you know, to 80 and still be able to lift my grandchildren and, you know, like all those things. It's like health is what allows me to be able to do that, but it's not just physical. Like that's where the thing I'm trying to do is widen the definition of health and connect the physical to the spiritual and psychological, because I think that's where it gets most interesting, and there's a lot of insight, and you get to be able to realize that the physical lever is very, very powerful in affecting the spiritual and the psychological. I think that's like what I am most
Well, I was trying to go for a descriptive approach, not a prescriptive, right?
For
like
sure.
that's not what I'm not trying to say that's the right way, but I think even in your explanation of that, you're falling into that same thing too. Where the only way in which we can talk about like physical health is as a currency to do something in the future, to be able to lift my like granddaughter one day, or to do all these things. But it's not about, to be a fully formed human being, that there is a certain sense in which we have to be physically healthy or approaching that, right? Like there is that disconnect that we don't really have the language for. And I think that's what you're trying to talk about. It's like what we need to get closer to.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I feel like we're living in the age of ad absurdum, like the idea of like one of the forms of argument is you reduce it to its absurdity. Like you just take it to, if you just overemphasize this, at what point does that just become actually a vice instead of a virtue? And it's like all of these things are that, right? You want someone who's balanced, who's not actually going to do things until they're absurd. And I like that's part of why I feel like this is the age of autism, is because you figure out patterns or systems, and then you don't realize that maybe you shouldn't do that like a million times over, that would actually be bad for you, right? So yes, we eat too much meat. Also, please don't be vegan, right? Like there's no sense of balance. We only know how to be ridiculous forms of different versions of monks. That's like what we're doing. And even
carnivore diet.
Yeah, carnivore or vegan. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's what you should be. One of those two. Let's do it until it's ridiculous.
Well,
right?
this is
Thousand species of monks with no spiritual benefit whatsoever.
This is why Vervaeke keeps on talking about trying to find artificial wisdom, not artificial intelligence. Right? Why are we looking for artificial intelligence? Where's the wisdom we're looking for?
That's got to come from us, maybe.
But that's a very interesting idea. Like the notion that we are trying. A monk was someone who used to have wisdom, right? The ascetics within our religious traditions were considered to be the highest. So now all of a sudden people are pursuing different forms of ridiculous asceticism. And maybe that's like pursuing the beautiful used to be considered one of the paths to God, right? So like taking a hammer to your face apparently is discovering the ineffable. Oh, great. You know what I mean? Or the Orthodox.
He could probably be a Catholic saint.
Yeah, but that's also why the Orthodox are popping up too, right? Is people have said, I want a form of Christianity that's actually still ascetic, that still fasts, that still does some of these practices, right? Like, how can we pursue these things to their full amount so that we can get to that?
That's what orthodoxy is Christian maxing.
It isn't Saint Christopher just another one of these like maxers? Like he's like a power.
That's actually. I'm sorry. Let's pause 1 second. That is what the advertisement is for the Young, Restless, and Reform, and now for the Orthodox.
Christian
is that? Oh yeah, we're no. We actually read the Bible. No. We actually are what the church is, right? Like it's Christ maxing. Now, don't take me with a grain of salt because I'm Jew maxing over here, which I'm not.
Which is the right thing to do.
Yeah. I'm not Jew maxing as much as he is.
Maxing.
Am I? I don't know. Did you fast on Yom Kippur? Did I eat less than you on that day? Okay, sorry.
It's quite possible, but I keep on telling Christians to go to church, and you keep on telling Christians to go to synagogue. So one of us is doing something.
I'm telling people to go to church too.
All right, I want to get Sartori in here, let him get a word, and then let's do some final words because I really am going to close it down at 2:30 now. Jacob,
can we hear Noah's point about St. Christopher first? You got cut off there.
Yeah.
Who was that? We'll get
We-
back to it. Somebody can do it for their last word if they want to
Okay.
do it. Talk about St. Christopher, because Jacob sharing the stream and talking about looks and clavicular and health has become too popular. Everybody's fired up. All right, Sartori, what up?
So talked about a lot of these similar topics of how like the middle of everything keeps getting like extracted. So you have all these people at the top, and then there's just people on the bottom. This was at yesterday. It was on Daniel's net session there. So whenever that comes out, there's some good stuff in there. But it was interesting. I also was thinking about like with AI, like part of the problem with AI, like figuring stuff out, is that it just is building all of its like machine learning off of this just absurd internet slurry of all sorts of conflicting opinions, and it doesn't get the same kind of like nurturing start that humans do, because all of us are, whether we have a conscious realization or not, we all began our lives as completely helpless infants and were loved into some ability to make sense of things over a long time. And then the problem is once people are reaching adolescence and adulthood, there's so much conflicting ways of doing things that we just can't make sense of it. And I think some of the problem really is that like Christians, a lot of Christians want to just keep pushing back against some of the more destructive conclusions that people like Nietzsche came to, where really it's like, well, maybe just assume he was right, because everybody that assumes he's right is like, we just have to build things from scratch. I think we've seen enough ideas and worldviews that were started from scratch with the assumption not to believe in God or whatever, that's clearly not a failure. That's clearly a failure. But like, we need to actually think about these things from like first principles in some sense, like because otherwise it's just everybody's making a mishmash of like, oh, I'll take a historical argument here, but then I will just also be influenced by influencers, or whoever is online, and they're all pushing their different, secret sauce to max out your life. But it's none of these things are like universal. It's all just they won't work for everybody. There's probably something that works for everybody, but it's not. But it's it's like if you're building a body and you have all these different organs, all those different organs need different nutrients and proteins and designs for them to become the thing that makes the whole body work. And so we really need to figure out how to like accept some of that plurality in a healthy way. So, like the assessment of where we're at is really important, because what we tend to do is we just look, and I'm not accusing anybody here of doing this necessarily. Maybe we did it in the beginning with like Jordan Peterson, but we just want to look at these people as like a spiritual answer, and we'll just be like, if I can just achieve the thing that they're pushing, and we're just kind of doing it as like a prayer or a wish without thinking about like where we're not really connecting where we are to that kind of vision of where we could end up. So yeah, those are things I wrote about in the book, and all that stuff's free. So, but anyway.
Nice. All right, we're going to do final words now. Who wants to start? And then I'm going to remove you. That's the new ritual. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
Because I'm just going to grift for the Greater Regional Aggression Protocol. Come camping with us, June 12th through the 14th, either out here in the Pacific Northwest, or start your own campfire, and we'll loop you in, and you can be present spiritually but not physically with us. Please, we need more fires. I think we got 4 right now. Washington, Florida, Wisconsin, and I'm leaning on somebody in Georgia. So we'll see how that goes. Join us. Fire is fun. Companionship is good. You're gonna have a good time, and you're gonna get so much FOMO if you don't show up.
It will be great. Check it out. All right. Thanks. Who
So
up?
I'll go next. Instead of looks maxing, you should cute max. And I will be doing an Iran update stream after this. But of course, we only stay on the subject in my streams. So if people want to talk about anything other than Iran, do not show up.
Sweet. Love it. Only Iran.
I can go with this. Brief point on Saint Christopher. This idea of the saint that or the guy who's trying to go after power, and he ends up finding himself serving God in the end because he pursued higher and higher powers. In a sense, he's power maxing at the same time. And the other piece is just that I think in our kind of attention on the craziness of the internet and talking about it as if it's normal, like not that we're saying it's weird, but we're talking about it as if it's a normalization of all the experiences of young people and all that. It actually feeds into the whole system. The attention vortex kind of comes in, the black hole is together. And there is a certain sense in which sometimes you don't pay attention to it. And you say, that's weird to the people in your real life. And you just say, like, that's weird. Why are you doing that? And then you can kind of make them conform to the real life. Anyway, that was just my other point.
Nice. Thanks. Appreciate it. Any
I'll
other
go.
takers? Okay.
I'll go. I don't really have any more thoughts, to be honest with you. I just think everyone should go look at the sunrise and the sunset and stop eating Doritos because Ethan thinks you're sinning. So.
Oh my God. Have you ever had Doritos though? I don't. It's incredible.
No, I don't really have any more thoughts, but I think this I don't know how we got on this topic of the health stuff, but I do think it's worth talking about more. And I don't necessarily have any profound final thoughts, but
no, that's all right. I'm trying to find this fantastic really in comment about
maxing. Maxing is the maxing in all of its form, be it orthodox maxing or looks maxing. All of it is Doritos dust, where it's like someone discovers what flavor is, and they're just like, what if we made that too much? And it hits no longer like food, but like a drug.
From Doritos dust we came, to Doritos dust we shall return. Michael, Andrew, JD.
All right. I guess I'm gonna go next.
Okay.
I think the handsome people on this panel made some really great points. I was very enamored with them, especially that Jess dude. Oh my gosh, fucking salt and pepper Byrd. Holy shit. What else? Yeah, the whole looks maxing thing. It's pretty cool. Everyone's got to live for something, and becoming a Greek god, incarnation of beauty. There's worse things in the world, right? That's all I got to say.
Nice.
Hey, Luke, long time no see. You're still rocking the beanie. Every time I see you, you're rocking the beanie. It's wild. It's wild. I don't know. Maybe you have a pile of them in your house or something.
We live up north.
That's right. I have a few. Part of it is I get cold. I also have a heater right here because I'm wearing the tank for the only tanks. But good to see you, buddy. Thanks for coming. All right.
I'll go.
Okay.
To bring it back to one of the first things you guys were talking about, I do think I've come to just accept the fact that I do have more of a folk spirituality, and a lot of it is if I had to choose between doctrine and scholastic doctrine about religion and the wisdom of my parents and grandparents, I'm almost always going to choose the wisdom of my parents and grandparents. It's just that's what formed me. And to bring it to the end, my grandfather used to always say, everything in moderation, including moderation.
Yeah. Good word, buddy. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
That's funny. I was just gonna say everything in moderation is too extreme. So moderation maxing though. But it's not everything, but it's maxed. And I have a talk with Jordan Hall that's coming out this afternoon, and we talked on similar things. So
Nice. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, you guys, this is your second talk with him, right?
Yep.
Sweet. All right. Well, thanks for coming. Interesting topics. Let's see. Let's close out with, what should we do? I need to make a Bison. If you're out there, you know who you are. You should read that. If somebody wants to do that, I will use it as branding. If somebody wants to read, Chad should. You're great at that. And that's right up your alley, Chad. You should read a section from The Crossing, something that the priest says that you think is beautiful, and then do some cool edits, and I'll use it as branding. That'll be fantastic. We're going to close out with Jeff's meow meow.